Hi everyone, we're going to talk about job analysis and talent management. So once again, we will share screen and get this thing going. So this has to do with how do you decide what an employee would do, what goes into a job description, how do you decide that whole process, and then how do you manage all of the knowledge base and what is going on with all your human capital within a company. So we'll talk about talent management, job analysis, job descriptions, and job specifications. So the purpose of this chapter then is to explain what human resource management is and why it's important to all managers. We'll see how HR is defining and working with each department in defining what they need to get the job done, okay, to get each of the jobs done. So talent management is defined as a holistic, integrated, and results and goal-oriented process of planning, recruiting, selecting, developing, managing, and compensating employees. So the steps in talent management process are: number one, decide what positions to fill; 2, build a pool of job candidates; 3, obtain application forms; 4, use a selection tool of some kind; 5, decide whom to make an offer; 6, orient, train, and develop employees; 7, appraise employees; and 8, compensate employees to maintain their motivation. Then what is job analysis? Job analysis is a procedure through which you determine the duties and skill requirements of a job and the kind of person who should be hired for that job. So the basics of a job analysis are: what are the work activities? What are the human behaviors needed? What are the machines, tools, equipment, and work aids needed for the job? What is the performance standards, the job context, and the human requirements? So the job analysis, you're going to do a job description and job specifications. You want to look at the recruiting and selection decisions. You're going to look at the EOC compliance, the performance appraisal, job evaluation, wage, salary decision, and training requirements. So how do you conduct a job analysis? First of all, you need to identify how will information be used. You want to review relevant background information. Then you want to select representative positions. You want to collect and analyze data. You want to verify it. And then you want to develop job descriptions and job specifications. So there's a lot of movement. I was in a job one time where I started just listening to people talk around me and realized that, people would say things like, yeah, well, so-and-so, you don't know him because he left. And he used to do your job. And then someone else would say, yeah, so-and-so used to do your job, but she left. And they would be talking about another area of my job. And I started taking note. And so one day I went to my boss and I said, so I've been listening to people, and it looks like to me that as short as 5 years ago, there were 6 people doing my job, and now I'm it. Is that so? And very sheepishly, my boss said, yes, there used to be 6 people doing your job. And so we had a really strong, serious heart-to-heart about how I constantly felt like I could not get my work done And I felt like I was failing all the time. And the reality was that my job as it stood right then, if you did a job analysis, was an impossible job because it would take me at least 4 times 40 hours for me to get the job done. And there were not enough hours in the week for me to get my job done. And so we had to talk about what are the priorities and what are we going to offload, or what are we going to simply ignore that cannot get done anymore. And we were able to come up with creative ways to delegate into other areas some of the things that I was simply not going to be able to get done. So that concept of a job analysis, especially in times where companies are downsizing, are something that we have to do all the time. And then when a company is expanding, we have to do it again, because we don't want to be in a situation where we hire someone and they don't have enough work to do. Because remember the previous chapter we talked about, it will lead to people not being engaged because they're going to be bored and they're going to want to leave. So the process involved in job analysis. Job understudy. So the quality control clerk, for example, you're going to look at information input from plant manager, components input from suppliers, information output from the plant manager regarding component quality, and product quality output from the plant manager. So you're like, here's the job, who are the people that are contributing, what needs to be done, and you're doing this whole analysis of what do they do, what's expected, what do you want them to accomplish, what do they need, and you're writing all of this down so that you can create a job description that is something they can actually get done. So this could lead to re-engineering of a job, redesigning a job, enlarging a job, right? Giving people more responsibilities. It could mean that you do job rotation. So more people learn the job so that if someone goes on vacation, other people can cover, or someone leaves, you're not in a bind. Or job enrichment. Like when I said that company where I worked with them for 3 years to develop this system where people could get additional training and get compensated, that was a job enrichment program. So then you collect job analysis information, and it's never one person alone doing this. You collect, you ask questions, you organize it, you think about it, you maybe assign tasks and priorities and how much time people think that something should take to get done. You may involve people who are currently doing the job. You may have people log their hours to kind of get a sense of what that's going to take as well. You may decide to interview. Okay, so job analysis interviews, it's like, tell me about your job. Okay, so you might ask questions like, what is the job being performed? What exactly are the major duties of this position? Where do you work? What part of your job experience is most useful? What part of your education have you used the most? What certifications have you needed or are required? And so anyway, you're thinking through these questions and you're asking someone who is in that job to give you more information. You could have structured checklists. You could describe the major duties and have them checklist or add. You can actually look at job descriptions on the internet and have people in your company analyze them as well. You could do observations of people's physical activities. It's not going to work if it's a lot of mental activity, right? Then you could have people do logs or diaries and record their activities. You could have position analysis questionnaires. Department of Labor has a lot of procedures, and you can get information from them as well. There are online job analysis methods such as standardized job analysis questionnaires, or there's geographically dispersed employees who could give you info as well. From all of that, you create job descriptions, okay? And so a job description is a written statement of what a worker would actually do. And it would include the job identification, a summary of the job, the responsibilities and duties, the authority of that person, the standards of performance, the working conditions, and job specifications. So a lot of times it could be broken out into a table. It can have different components and everything. So a job summary, relationships like who do you supervises you, who do you report to, and so on. Responsibilities, you want to be very clear about these, right? And there's samples there that you can look at. Standards of performance and working conditions, you want to list them out. Take a look in the book using ONET to write a job description. I'll try to remember for class to hop on ONET and give you guys an example, but this can really help people writing job descriptions online. So job specifications then takes the job description and answers the question, what human traits and experiences are required to do the job effectively? And it shows what kind of a person to recruit and what qualities you would want in that person. So trained experiences like length of service, quality of relevant training, previous job performance, or specify the qualities. Sometimes you're taking educated guesses, you're using common sense, but education, is probably the one that's the easiest to put on there. You're wanting some predictors. You might be using some statistical analysis to try to come up with what exactly you want. But there's a 5-step procedure that's outlined in your book, like analyze the job and decide how to measure job performance, select personal traits like finger dexterity, test candidates for these traits, measure these candidates' subsequent job performance, statistically analyze the relationship between those traits, etc. A job requirements matrix is a more complete description of what the worker does and how and why he or she does it. And it includes the knowledge, skills, ability, and other characteristics that might be required. So the employee engagement guide for managers, human resource consulting company, the Development Dimensions International. They conducted a study of 3,800 employees. They identified several personal characteristics that seem to lead to people being more engaged at work. And they came up with adaptability, passion for work, emotional maturity, positive disposition, self-advocacy, and achievement orientation. And so then they try to, like, you can give people a test and try to match people and gauge that. So competency-based job analysis, you hear in education a lot more about hiring people that have competency bases and how important that is. So today you hear a lot more like you want people to have team building and leadership and communication skills and writing skills and critical thinking. So how do you measure that, and which ones of those are most important for an employer? And then employers are trying to write these statements that will help select better people that fit that more. Some employers are putting personality traits into it. Some employers go as far as giving personality tests to the team that you would work with, and then trying to find a team member that would match in that personality. All efforts to come up with ways that will lead to more engaged employees. So I'd love to hear from you guys as to what types of tests and what types of experiences you have had as well when you're looking at jobs and in your interview or in your job process, if you've experienced any of these things. Okay, we'll call this chapter good to go, and hopefully this has given you guys some good ideas to think about.